The Craig Jones Invitational 2 brought together some of the best athletes in Jiu-Jitsu. Inside that pit, we saw moments of bright skill that went far beyond the final numbers. Some athletes carried their teams with fearless work. Some stood across from bigger opponents and refused to back down. Some showed flashes but ran out of time. And others left us wishing for one more round. In this video, we look at the real MVPs of the Craig Jones Invitational 2. The athletes who pushed the pace, the ones who revealed sharp details in their game, the ones who struggled under the short clock, and the ones who deserve more shine. We will break down the key battles, the choices that really mattered, and why these performances tell the true story of the event. Chapter 1. The real MVPs. Dorian Olivares showed that size is not fate in this format, and he proved it by going after a much bigger man without a hint of fear. Against Felipe Pena, he hit clean singles, pushed him to the wall, put him on the floor, then moved side to side until he passed, and even climbed to mount. Later, with Ethan Crelinsten, he forced the action again. And while the last moments looked messy, the honest read is that Dorian drove most of the round. He proved that one of the smallest men in the building could set the tone and make champions feel the heat. DeAndre Corbett came in as a surprise for many because not everyone knew the story. Until just before the Craig Jones Invitational 2, he worked a regular 9 to 5 and only then stepped in as a full-time athlete. Across from him stood Mika Galvao, who has trained since he was a kid and treats jiu-jitsu like his only job. When they met, it was very close. DeAndre went hard on leg attacks and made Mika react. Mika scrambled with cat-like speed but never took full control. It was back and forth to the end and the draw felt fair. The bigger note is that a man coming from a normal job went even with one of the sport's brightest names, and that is why people left talking about DeAndre Corbett. Kenta Iwamoto deserves a spotlight because every match was against a bigger man, and he never stopped moving. Versus Kyle Baim, he shut down entries, hit a foot trip, took passing moments, and kept pressing. Later he met Nick Rodriguez, who outweighed him by a lot, and that became one of Nicky's hardest rounds of the event. Kenta reversed, chased, and kept the pace high. It ended as a draw on the card, but anyone watching could see Kenta belongs with the best, undersized on paper and huge on impact. Diego Pato Oliveira earned respect by refusing to play safe. Against Paul Ardila and Luke Griffith, who were much heavier, he attacked anyway. He swept Luke, tried to pass, even entered legs on giants. It cost him when Luke caught him later, but it showed that Pato came to show his jiu-jitsu, not to hang on for a tie. Very few would risk that against that kind of size. He did, and that is why people kept saying his name. Giancarlo Bodoni carried the clearest bounce back. After the day 1 drama with Taylor Pearman, he came out on day 2 like a man with something to prove. He took down Ronaldo Jr., chased the back, and when the choke was not there, he switched to a clean armbar. No questions, just a finish. That put him right back where he belongs in the top talks. Helena Crevar took the women's crown by staying calm under a storm. Sarah Galvão came forward, and Helena stayed cool. When the door opened, she caught the leg and closed the match with an Aoki lock. It was $100,000, and it was payback too, because Sarah had beaten her in the kimono before. This time, Helena got the last word and showed she's already one of the main names to watch. Belal Etiabari also had an impressive showing against Geo Martinez, managing to secure a footlock. After that, he fell short against Kyle Baum and later suffered the same fate again. For me, he still belongs in the MVP column because he went back out with a clear injury to face Victor Hugo for his team. That was too much for Belal to handle, but he showed real heart, never giving up despite the injury. Victor Hugo deserves a mention here as well. Even though his run in the first Craig Jones Invitational was short, in the second he came back stronger and delivered some of the clearest wins of the event. He earned 2 separate submission bonuses of $50,000 each, and gave him a huge push on the way to the $1 million prize. His arm triangle finishes were sharp, and his run proved that one bad day at a past tournament does not define an athlete. If you keep working, you can come back and shine on the biggest stage. Nick Rodriguez was not the single greatest MVP, but his role was huge. The team score was tight, and the rule said the last fight decides. Nicky walked out like a man who already knew the ending. No rush, no panic. He body-locked Luke Griffith, dragged him to the mat, stayed heavy in side control, and closed the show. Luke had no clear answers. The judges scored it his way, and his team took the $1 million. What stood out was the calm. A few years back, he was the guy trying to explode out of every bind. Now he makes other people work while he stays at ease. If this is giving you value, I post free tips, study guides, and exclusive breakdowns, personal reviews of your own videos, and deep dives on pro matches. On my Patreon, I am also releasing every Craig Jones Invitational 2 match broken down fully for us to study. Whether you want free tips or detailed analysis, there is something for everyone. Hit subscribe and turn on the bell so future study finds you automatically. Chapter 2. The Under-Delivered. Some athletes did almost everything right and still got less credit, because the rules and the short rounds shrank their impact. Dorian belongs here too, because his rounds with Felipe Pena and Ethan showed steady pressure and pace, but the double elimination lane meant the card call did nothing. If those rounds ran longer, he might have broken the two of them. Instead, the paper says draw, and that makes Bright work look small. Quinta fits here, because while his matches were some of the most competitive of the event, the clock never gave him points for making bigger men suffer. He shut down Kyle Bain. He pushed Nick Rodriguez to one of Nicky's toughest outings. It still reads draw. Viewers know what they saw, but the bracket does not reward almost passes and steady pursuit. Pato belongs here because he chose risk over safety. He attacked bigger men, he swept, he pressed, he showed his game, and then he got caught. With these rules, that looks like a loss, but in truth, it was brave and worth more than a stall for a tie. Joseph Chen is someone many expected to bloom, but the 8-minute cap boxed him in. His first match was too one-sided to tell us much. His time with Bodoni turned into a high-level chess match that needed more minutes. He left with a clean slate on paper, even if the skill was clear to anyone who paid attention. Chris Wojcik ran into rough styles. He had to deal with Jacob Couch and then Lucas Canard and Mika Galvão, each very hard to score on in a short window. 8 minutes against those guards leaves little room to build. So he looked flat on paper, when the truth is, he fought tough rounds against tricky games. Even Ethan Krelenston had a hard lane. First, a much bigger Declan Moody, which made it a heavy battle. Later in the event, he met Dorian, who was pressing everyone. Many fans wished Ethan opened with someone closer to his size like Owen Jones, or even got Dorian right away when they were fresh. Instead, the bracket gave him two of the toughest jobs and little space to show his full game. This is the quiet problem of the system. There were plenty of rounds where the athlete who carried the pace and took the risks walked out with nothing. Under-deliver does not mean they failed. It means the rules did not give credit for what they actually did. Chapter 3. The people who did not get a chance to express themselves. Owen Jones had one shot, and it was Kenan Duarte, one of the biggest names and biggest men. Owen is young and much smaller, and that single draw never showed the off-balances and quick entries that make him special. It felt like we lost a whole part of his story. Paweł Jaworski had only one match, and it was Lucas Hulk Barbosa. It ended in a draw, but you could see the danger in his game. With 2 or 3 rounds, we might be talking about him as a breakout. Instead, he lives with one scoreless fight. Gavin Corp had bad luck because his very first match was Giancarlo Bodoni, and it ended fast by a rear naked choke. That kind of start gives you no chance to build flow or show the wider parts of your game. People who follow him expected more, but the way the bracket fell made it hard to see. Dante Leon got Victor Hugo, a huge and very dangerous heavyweight. Dante worked, but the size and style left him no space to open up. Then his team was out, and that was it. One of the most exciting athletes of his time left with a single frustrating outing. Chapter 4. The Women's Bracket. Adele Fornarino pushed Helena Crevar to one of the closest matches of the whole event, and the judges sided with Helena. Many fans felt Adele had done enough, and it added to a rough run of close calls, like her split decision with Fionn Davis at the Ultimate Fighting Championships Fight Pass Invitational 11. She's always right there, in razor-thin fights, and too often comes up short on the cards. Sarah Galvan was all fire. She pressed forward and threw herself into every exchange. People said she looked like her father, but even more fierce. She was not scared of anyone in the bracket and brought a pace few could match. And yes, she had beaten Helena before in the kimono, which made the final even more tense. Helena Crevar moved past the pressure with calm. She kept her cool against Sarah, and when the opening came, she caught the leg and finished with a sharp Aoki lock. That win was worth $100,000, and it was revenge. More than the check, it proved she can finish top names on the biggest stage. Chapter 5. The Clock and the Rules. The Craig Jones Invitational. 2 rounds on a short clock and a sharp pencil, and that changes the game. 8 minutes sounds like plenty until you remember you are watching the very best, and real control against the very best often grows late. Short rounds make early moments look bigger than they are, and late push often shows up just as the bell cuts it off. The passer who finally starts breaking someone down in minute 7 never gets time to turn pressure into a finish. A careful game can make the same 8 minutes feel empty and still walk away even on the card. Then 10 point must squeezes the round into tiny snapshots where one clean takedown or a short right can decide everything. And if nobody wins clean, it is a draw, and the 2 are gone. The double elimination lane made too many dead ends, and it was not easy to watch because whole matchups fell out of the bracket and favorite athletes vanished after a single even round. Add the last fight rule for a tight team score, and you get a spotlight that makes closers look huge and hides the slow burners. Not because one group is better and the other worse, but because 8 minutes and a narrow card decide which parts of Jiu-Jitsu the scene gets to see. Final idea. Step back from the noise of cards and rules, and you see the real story of the Craig Jones Invitational 2. You see the small man who kept pushing giants, the 9-to-5 worker who stood across from a prodigy and held his ground, undersized athletes who attacked without fear, and young women who turned fire into history with one clean lock. You see athletes who looked flat only because the clock was short and the bracket was rough. And you remember that Jiu-Jitsu is not only about who raised the hand at the end, but about who showed us something worth studying. The MVPs taught us that calm makes control, that bounce back comes from clean method, not noise, that brave offense, even in losing, is worth more than stalling to survive, and that cool heads make legends. Victor Hugo showed another side, that a tough run in one event can turn into history in the next if you keep moving forward. The under-delivered showed that the rules can erase bright work if you do not look close. The names who never got a chance to express themselves remind us that one hard draw can hide a year of prep. And the women prove that the future is already here, and it is brave and sharp. If you like this video, I post free tips, study guides, and exclusive breakdowns, personal reviews of your own videos, and deep dives on pro matches on my Patreon. I am also releasing every Craig Jones Invitational 2 match, broken down there fully, so we can study each round more deeply. Whether you want free tips or a detailed analysis, there is something for everyone. Subscribe and turn on the bell so future study finds you automatically.